Okay, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. I take it for granted that you're still enjoying your second day of the holiday, the extended weekend. Weekend now extended into what? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You people should remember there's work tomorrow. Don't get don't get comfortable. Indeed, Salah greetings. And indeed, the same to my guests as well. Ahmed Dada Abass, lawyer and public affairs analyst. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And Barika de Salah is in order and all of that.
Thank you.
And also to Tony, Barika de Salah apply too.
Thank you very much.
Tony Dania. Mr. Dania is also a lawyer and social critic. So, let's look at the very stern posture of the Nigerian army, but nay, not Nigerian army, defense headquarters. I'm referring to their order to 93 Battalion Takum in Taraba. That's the one that has gotten itself the kind of a lot of reputation that it doesn't want at this stage in time. But defense headquarters has said, produce the alleged kidnapper Wadume as an indication that the soldiers of the battalion are not culpable in a corporate sort of a way. I think the case is proceeding along the lines of there might be a few renegade, a few rotten eggs, a few bad eggs, but not that the Nigerian army itself is complicit. Let me start with you, if I could, Ahmed. Enough? Is that enough? Is it good? This is expected?
Well, I should say that could be an indication, if they're able to produce Wadume, that it's just some few bad eggs in the army that actually were involved in that despicable
escapade.
Yes, escapades. That it's not an institutional. It's actually not an institutional act. That it was just some few eggs probably who were related to the Wadume, because from what we are glimpsing from the narratives that have been thrown here and there, that it's actually maybe the captain who actually ordered the shooting was in the payroll of Wadume and all the rest of them. So I think the institution owes the nation, especially the battalion, owes the nation an obligation to demonstrate that it's just the act of some few army officers, that is not as if it's the battalion's thing. Yes, okay. I think it's in the right direction. And they should produce the man to demonstrate, yes.
Yeah, so that would be part of the whole investigation going on. I mean, you often hear from men in uniform, whatever the uniform, something about order from above. So it's like this would seem to indicate a dissociation from that whole idea. We also have it in the National Assembly too, where there's the whole take a bow and go. So people have come to stereotype, so order from above. So this apparently, coming from the defense headquarters, would indicate that we want to get to the bottom of this, and the army needs to prove that its men are not complicit in all of this, especially the men of the 93 Battalion, Takum.
Yes.
I mean, this is a right step in the right direction. You've been talking about this for a bit since all of this happened.
Yes, like I said on this TVC station 3 days ago, that the army is not officially involved in that alleged activity. Okay. I use the word alleged because in law, even if you are caught in the act, you are presumed innocent, So, but
you're not involved, even though 3 clear-serving Nigerian soldiers, okay, you're going to use the word allegedly again, were involved in this killing.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, they're not looking for them. This is it's not. They're not faceless. We know.
The army has apprehended the hearing soldiers. They have apprehended the commander, that is the captain.
Yes.
What I expect the army to do is to immediately hand over to the police. However, I am impressed that the defense headquarters have taken up this matter. So it has gone beyond just the army. And then it is something that is rubbing on the reputation of the Nigerian military. And the Nigerian military is made up of the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, and all that. So it is rubbing off on them. And then I would say, let us use this as a turning point. It's extremely difficult to cover this. because the Nigerian masses are involved. Everybody is not happy. So and I know I can understand the position of the federal government where the military are doing a lot now to keep the nation together and to fight against external aggression. So one has to be careful. But having said that, we must use this as a turning point to get the military generally to submit to the supremacy of civilians. That is, they are getting too involved in civilian activity. Internal security, it's as if the police are no longer capable. No. You see a driver, he puts a military cap on in his vehicle, nobody can stop you, nobody can check. And if any policeman dares stop that vehicle, he receives beating, and it's not good. We should use this as a turning point. I expect the army to have come out more strongly, because I know that the army couldn't have permitted this kind of a thing officially. So it was some soldiers.
Because it's a criminal act.
It's a criminal act.
And so
it
there's
was
no
some
way,
soldiers.
ordinarily, not remove ordinarily. There's no way the army of any country will order you into a criminal act.
Exactly.
Even they themselves say, I know it's a bit obscure, but even they themselves say that an illegal order can be disobeyed. You know, but,
exactly.
But that's a totally different, I understand that's a totally different ballgame.
No, but it's true.
Yeah, but you're going to have to, it's not as if it's a piece of cake to prove that the order was illegal is why I disobeyed.
Yeah, Barnabas' case is there. He was prosecuted. He claimed that he was obeying an order, but the order was illegal.
Okay.
You can't order you to go and kill somebody because the order is from your superior. You just go and kill when the man is innocent, he has not done anything. So back to the issue, I want to say that this should be the turning point. The military should succumb to civilian authority, particularly when it is a civil activity. The alleged incident in Taraba, kidnapping, civil offense, not a criminal matter. And then if the military are supposed to take any action, naturally, they have to cooperate with the police. The first point is the police. And when the soldiers saw police, because even if it was an undercover operation, they still have their emblem, I mean the camouflage on. They have their guns
There was
on.
even talk of having identified themselves. You know, that is shouting that who they were.
They said the story that there were 3 checkpoints before Wadume's town, 3 military checkpoints. And the police officers actually identified themselves when they were going for the operation, and that there were, mutual conversation as to the purpose of their being there. After carrying out their assignment, they were on their way back. After the first checkpoint, it was, I think, they said the second checkpoint that the incident now happened. So obviously, it was premeditated, even from the camera, the video footage. Look, when somebody is on the floor already, we still saw a picture of one of the officers.
That was alive.
That was alive. He was eventually still killed. No, it's an eyesore. These are some of the things that that take away some of.
Maybe stay. Tony was saying earlier that the nature of kidnapping, it's not a criminal offense; it's a civil offense. That surprised me.
No, it's not a military.
Okay.
Offense.
Okay, but it definitely is a criminal offense.
Of course, a criminal offense.
Yeah,
it's a civil.
Maybe I misheard.
It's a civil matter.
Okay.
Civil in the sense that
it's a
civilians can handle it.
You were talking in relation to the
military
army involving itself.
Yes.
There was no role for the military in this kind of a thing.
No, I think the military should go back to defending Nigeria against external forces, and if there are serious internal strife. Of course, sometimes there are certain operations where you need military support, even for internal issues. For instance, recently, after this Taraba incident, there was an incident in Isheri area in Lagos where SAS men were killed. One of them was killed, and the others were kept in the king's palace. There were military intervention. They came in and they rescued those men.
Well, yeah,
So these are. There's room for cooperation if it is necessary. But you see, it brings us to the issue of Nigerian police being underfunded. Nigerian police are not being taken care of. It is only the Nigerian police that will work for 35 years, retire, a senior officer. I have friends that retired as Deputy Superintendent of Police, and their total take-home after 35 years service is about 3.5 million. Imagine that. And even that 3.5 million, they will suffer, they will not get it. So it is not good. I think the federal government should look into the welfare of Nigerian police. They are not well provided for. If we provide, Nigerian police now rely on civilians to form this police public relations committee to assist them to get logistics. It shouldn't be like that. We should do more for our police. And then this brings me to the issue of the Nigerian being allowed to do things using self-help. For instance, your street, you meet and come up with ideas how to protect yourself. Self-help, to do good things, to do bad things. Some estates, they use self-help for electricity. Now, the advantage is that if the federal government can cash in on this, Nigerians are resilient, they are hardworking. You know, they think of how to help their immediate community because of the situation we find ourselves. Okay. So it has become an advantage. I digress a little bit. Look at the issue of 419. The people that do 419 in Nigeria are very insignificant percentage of the whole masses. Yet it's so loud all over the world. But this is brought an advantage. The advantage it brought is that if any letter of credit is leaving Nigeria, the bankers can confirm. They respect it outside the country because no foreign bank will confirm it if it is not fully cash back because of the issue of 419 and the rest. Whereas foreign letter of credit comes in here, we hear of documentary letter of credit and all that. That is just one part. I think this issue, I don't know why they are setting up this panel, but I think the panel, what is the panel going to look at in respect of the specific incident? No, it is obvious. The videos are there, the facts are clear. Maybe the panel will look, I've not seen the point of references for the panel, but maybe they will look beyond just the incident and think of preventing such an incident and looking at the infusion of the military in civil activities. When I say civil, I mean living military activities to come to.
Yes. Well, I imagine, not knowing very much about it, Ahmed, that there's a lot to find out in the panel. Because there's in a sense, you could say the Nigerian army was infiltrated. So they probably want to know, what I mean by that is that you have a bunch of killers within the army. That's infiltration. Exactly. I imagine they have all sorts of screens to make sure they don't take in those kind of people. To now find out that in spite of their best efforts, you got a captain, you got these kind of guys that you need to ask questions of. I suppose they probably want to spend a fair bit of time asking themselves, how did this happen? Where did we get it wrong? How did it slip past all the, so that today somebody wearing a Nigerian army uniform is involved in this kind of a thing? It's an abomination. I imagine, let them concentrate on that. But I wanted to come back to the question of that Tony said, and most people understand and agree that, look, the army should have much less to do with engaging with civilians, professionally, That's a bit complicated because, as you know, upon the daughter of Fashionati, when the vice president paid a visit, condolence visit, among the initial things he had said was that, we're thinking, or whether we're thinking or we're actually going to put soldiers, on the roads. And it goes back to what Tony was talking about. The Nigerian police is seen in a certain way. But when we want to show that we're going to get very serious with this, it's not that you can send a crack police kind of a team. Now you know that, look, we're really serious in this. We're going to bring in the army. And so we're going to have to manage the desire to not have them do policing work with wanting effective results.
See, when as a young man, you live in one-bedroom apartment and you marry, and your first baby comes, and you are not planning on how to move out of the one-room apartment, the second baby comes, the third baby comes, in one-room apartment, the fourth comes. Your quality of life, whether you like it or not, your standard of living will depreciate, whether you like it or not, because the space is no longer sufficient for those number of people if you want to live decent life. Sure. It is the same problem with Nigeria. We do not plan, we do not foresee. The problems that we are having is a byproduct of planlessness over the years. That when you fail, like you rightly said, when your population is increasing, you should know that you should increase both the manpower and the equipment your police have as a civil force to adequately police the society. But you see, when Fasonati's daughter issue came and I learned that, oh, the next issue that we are going to police, my question is, how many routes are you going to police with your military men? Because eventually what you are going to have is you are going to have the entire federal roads and state roads with army checkpoints here and there. Yeah. And whether you like it or not, the military, their psyche and their training is quite different from the police. They are trained to kill. They are trained to exterminate their enemy, not to pacify. So when you send the military to any situation, you are simply saying, we are under threat, quell it. It's quite different from the psyche of an average police officer trained under a democratic setting. So the question is this: how did we get to a point where, if you ask an average police, you visit a police station in Nigeria, you will weep for them.
That's right.
You will weep.
It doesn't.
Look. Somebody was saying it the other day that maybe an average a police station has an average of 15,000 naira to run the police station per month. What will that one do for a station where you have close to 100 complaints in a day and you all want them to respond? So we imbue them with this omnipotency. We just want them to virtually everywhere to solve all our problems, yet we are not adequately equipping them. If you go to Zone 2, some of the police officers, some of them, they live in Songota and they report to work. But because of the transport system, the welfare, the lack of finance, they sleep in their offices. So in the morning when you go there very early, you see police officers going to the back of their ramshackled offices to bath and come back and report for duty. Sometimes their families are there, they won't see them. So the question is, we must go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, what is the population of Nigeria? What do we need to adequately police? Because these same police officers that sometimes we say they are not performing, they go for international assignments and they come back with award, they come back with laurel. Why are they not? Because they are numerically and equipment wise. You go to an average police station, they have one vehicle. How do they fuel it? They don't have stationaries. And we expect them to perform miracles. So we must go back in a democratic setting. All institutions answer to the police as the number one public service.
Exactly.
As the number one security public service. Even the military. If you arrest anybody for any criminal offense as a military officer, you hand them over to the civil authority, which is the police, for prosecution.
When Ahmed was explaining the plight of the police vis-a-vis their professional capability today, he didn't bring it in, but I wonder if you thought that the interruptions to democracy, where we had, all this military intervention, the coups, and the military, poo-pooing the police almost, like, relegating them, not wanting them to be seen to be effective. The whole effectiveness of this new system called Nigeria that we are running, so says this coup plotter and guy who was taking over, is us. Supreme headquarters, that kind of thing. So I don't know if was it entirely a result of our inability to plan, or the fact that we were forced into this situation intentionally, even though they might not have realized that down the road, long run, is going to come back and bite us very, very badly.
Yes, the military intervention in Nigerian politics from time immemorial has cost us not only a rubbish police force, but it has cost us a lot economically too, because it's as if they were bereft of idea on how to run the country. But then we've run civilian governance for how long now? I think over 20 years. And
but you don't recover from those things overnight.
No. See,
they systematically
10 years.
messed with the police.
No. Excuse me.
Uncoupled them almost.
Uncle Fola, Nigeria, Uncle Yomi, Nigeria.
Yori, just Yori, please.
Okay. Uncle Yori. The Nigerians that I know as a Nigerian,
sure, we
are resilient. We are hardworking.
Okay.
Let me give you this. Before we started using GSM, other countries, including Cotonou, were using GSM. When we started using GSM, do you know the position we occupy in the world for GSM consumption? Yet, how many phones are we producing? We are number 4 now in the world. We have a lot of good things here. that I think we can, the government only need to encourage things here. For instance, we hear of people coming up with means of generating light. When we wanted to get GSM, we got it right. When Ebola came, we got it right. We're able to manage Ebola. Nigerians are not difficult to manage. But the people leading us, they are supposed to encourage self-development. Let me tell you another thing. By the time, I'm an expert on subsidy, by the time Dangote refinery comes up, it will help Nigeria a great deal. Because the amount you are paying for subsidy is going to be the biggest in Africa, the biggest private refinery in Africa. So the amount you are paying in subsidy will dwindle. Because the Nigerian market alone will be enough for that refinery. How much more it will still have time to export. Now, when you come to, I used Candle to read for my JAMB so many years back. So if I was in England, I would perform very well. My learned friend have just talked of the police. Here in Nigeria, they are underperforming for obvious reasons. And nobody is addressing the issue. Abroad, they go there and they perform well because they have the wherewithal. Provide Nigerians with the wherewithal. If you fix light, for instance, electricity, do you know the money we'll save will not go to the government purse or government official purses? It comes to people like us. We are the one using generators. We are the one using generators at home and everywhere. The barbers are using generators. It will reduce our problem with not less than 25%.
Okay.
And Nigerians provide, if you provide finance, I have an idea what to do, I don't have money. So many Nigerians have ideas what to do. And then this poverty thing, those that are ruling us are deliberately encouraging it. They want the masses, the youth to come and worship them, and they to continue to be like this. Unless we continue to push, whoever that is there, we push for changes. Even if the person is not performing, we should continue, because if you are pushing to change the person leading you.
I hear you.
I am sorry that I'm digressing.
Okay, yeah.
I just wanted to
Please.
in line with your dictum. It was true that the military deliberately decimated and reduced the capacity of the police because they didn't want a contending, opposing force, which was the police. As far as the military was concerned, they were one side, and the only other force they thought could act as a counterbalancing force was the police, and the only way is to render them impotent.
Yes.
That was why we are all students of history. There was a police officer then, was it the public relations officer that resigned under Babangida?
Yes.
He said it point blank. What is it? I've forgotten the man's name.
His name is on the tip of my ear.
He's a police officer.
Yes, everybody knows.
A very courageous officer who came out under the military to say that what do they know? That is just about drinking pepper soup and all the rest of them. That he was.
I'm sure people at home will instantly recognize that.
That police officer courageously during the military era spoke against them that they were rendering the police incompetent.
So this is
stripping
the
them.
deliberate
It was a deliberate
deconstruction
attempt
at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, but what
It is the aftermath.
This is the aftermath.
This is the aftermath.
Because most
we are
times,
saying that we will have the time to repair this.
yes, most times when you are making a decision, sometimes for personal and selfish interests, you might not know the long-term implications.
Exactly.
That's why I like this. There's this president, one of the presidents of this European country, who said, "Don't hang my photograph in your offices.
Yes.
Hang the photograph of your children there, so that whatever decision you want to make, simply ask yourself, in the short run, long run, what impact will your decision have on them?" That was it. But like he rightly said also, we have a leadership class that when they were coming in 1999 should have asked themselves, how do we police our society and prevent crime? Long term, what do they need? You don't have to solve a society's problem in one day, 24 hours. You simply project. There are nations that sit down, housing problem, they solve it they plan for it 20, 30 years ahead of time. Electricity consumption, what will be the demand? And you begin to plan gradually. So this problem is also solved. And like he said, we've interacted with Nigerians, brilliant Nigerians, talented Nigerians, both nationally, locally, and in diaspora. There's no problem bedeviling Nigeria that if you bring crop of Nigerians together, competent professionals in each of those problems bedeviling us, and you give them the enabling environment, they will crack it for you and give you home well-made solution, well thought out, and globally compliant solution. Nigerians are intelligent.
It is that enabling environment challenge that I imagine that they're working on, because that's the role of government or governance anywhere in the world.
Yes,
just provide the enabling environments and they will run with it.
Sir,
but we've not even...
You know, like I said, there are two key feature or attribute that a leader should have: the ability to inspire confidence in the midst of challenging problems, and the ability to sniff out human capital within your terrain, people who are warehouses of solution to the problem you are trying to solve. You don't necessarily need to have the solution
yourself.
Yes.
For example, if you have financial problem bedeviling a nation, sir, you as the president don't need to be a Harvard trade financial expert. You have men and women who have written their name in gold in the financial sector. All you need to do, call them together. Because one issue I tried to use in illustrating, when J.F. Kennedy was pointing Americans to the moon in 1961, he wasn't a scientist.
Exactly.
He didn't know the way there. But he gave them a challenge that if indeed we're a great nation, let us send a man to the moon. And they sat down, brought people together and asked, what do we need to do to land the man on the moon and bring the man back safely? At the end of their meeting, they came to the conclusion that there are 18 obstacles that they need to surmount before being able to send a man to the moon. And they sat down and went into those 18 areas and brought out the best brain. And the government created an enabling environment, both legislative review, financial, medicine, computer, and 9 years down the line or 8 years down the line, they surmounted those problems. So the same way, if you have a challenge bedeviling Nigeria, the president should look even beyond his kitchen cabinet and look at people outside who are passionate about Nigeria, bring them together and say, how do we solve this problem? Look, educationally, we keep saying education, the graduates being churned out, they are not fitting into the marketplace and not the rest of them. The government should just be an umpire. Bring the private sectors who are consumers of these graduates and bring the universities together. And the NUC on the one hand, I say, I want to be an umpire. Private sector, what's your problem with the graduates we are producing? They don't have this skill, they don't have this skill. NUC, what will it take you to produce graduates with this skill that I need? What are the enabling environment I need to create for you to produce graduates that will fit into the marketplace? And you create that environment and you solve that problem.
Yes, and you see...
I hear you. And in fact, there's a sense in which you can wonder that, wait a minute, we're talking about defense headquarters. How did we get into the entirety of the machinery of governance in Nigeria? But it's related.
No, we said it's a turning point.
I want to return to that very turning point that you brought up. That this could be taken as a turning point. Look, maybe after the commercial break, but let me just set it up. The Chief of Army Staff has said that there was one time when he surprised us all by saying that not all soldiers were willing to fight.
Yes.
And that was a scandal. I mean, that is the highest offense you can commit in the army. What do you mean you won't fight? It's almost like a mutiny. So I was relating, when you were saying this could be seen as a turning point, in addition to the present matter that they have to investigate, I imagine that these other matters can be touched upon. T.Y. Danjuma has said, he's on public record as saying that this army is sectional, this army is, in short, those things that you don't expect an army to be and that you certainly don't expect an experienced army chief, no matter if it is a former, to be voicing out. All of these things are happening to us. We are hearing about all of these things, none of which can be kicked away with your left foot as inconsequential. So let's take a break. We'll be right back. Don't stay with us, please, and we'll continue with the conversation and we'll take your calls. Okay, welcome back, and Salah celebrations continue. Your last day. Tomorrow, we're all back to work again. Still in the studio with Ahmed Dada Abass, lawyer and public affairs analyst, as well as Tony Dania, lawyer and social commentator. And we're looking at the news that the Defense Headquarters has indeed ordered 93 Battalion in Takum to produce the alleged kidnapper, Wadume. As a matter of fact, the front page of the of The Nation this morning has an interesting feature on who Wadume is, his photograph in there, and whether his name is actually Wadume or it's a corruption of what do you mean, you know, in his particular accent that suddenly become, what do you mean becoming Wadume. It's all on the front page of Kudos Nation for at least giving us some sort of an insight into who is Wadume, what's this whole thing. Young, in fact, it's good. I didn't even know that was the kind of person we're dealing with. The alleged kidnapper, he's looking like a youth, like a young man. Now, in fact, there are other news stories that people in his village, Ibi, you know, are just running away because they came out, they were jubilating when the news first hit that he had been apprehended. And then when they now heard that, Lord have mercy, he has escaped, everybody now says, we're in trouble because we jubilated, and so they're scared. Now, this goes to show you that there are problems here. But returning to the army saying that 93 Battalion should show good faith, my interpretation now, just show that the army is not part of this. Certainly the army is not part of it. 93 Battalion is not part of all of this. Yes. You must do this. Now, as I was going to break, I was remembering that in the past, the Chief of Army Staff had said that there are some things going on in the Army that the rest of us don't know about. In fact, we've had a program on it here, and there were people from home who were angry that why is the Chief of Staff speaking like that? He's demoralizing the men. It's not everybody. You know, there will be a few bad eggs. And then I then remember that T.Y. Danjuma had also, there are times when he doesn't have very complimentary things to say about, I imagine, sections of the military. I don't know if it's the whole thing. So these things, going back to where you say this is a chance, this is an opportunity, you probably would be counseling that they should take all of these into consideration as well.
Yes, you know, the fact there is this assistant director DSS retired that was kidnapped one time, and when he came out, he said some military men were involved in his kidnapped. And I don't know what we did. We also heard in the news recent past that a top military man had 400 million naira that was stolen by other ratings in the military. We didn't hear anything again about it. Now, what is because when you say the reputation of the military is at stake, there are persons that are leading the military. The chief, the Minister for Defense, the Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Naval Staff, they are all there.
Yes.
Now, what have they done to arrest this situation?
What do they
know? Because
how much do they know?
No,
do they know that there's a need for anything to be done?
For the Chief of Army Staff to come and make that.
If it's not policy.
For him to come and make that statement, he shows that he's aware of certain things going on. You know, but what has he done? Even though we know that they keep their activities in secret, but we need to know what they are doing. Okay. You understand? So the war against Boko Haram, a lot of the soldiers at the war front are exposed to certain facts. When they hear that the federal government has approved X amount for them, for instance, and probably it is not getting to them, and probably they have to buy their uniforms and all that. I'm supposed to be giving them free.
So all of these
it
might
will
also
make
be
them
contributory figures, factors.
Exactly.
Right? 1 second, please. Good morning, Mr. George, and thank you for holding on.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. Good morning to the guests there.
Morning.
Yes.
Good morning.
Uncle Yori, in the first place, there is the absolute necessity to reform the police. Many of the duties that are being assigned to the army now is not for the military. Internal crime. It's meant for the police to address. In many countries that you go to, you don't see soldiers along the street or on the roads. Soldiers are meant for territorial defense when there is war or something. But why is it that the police is continually being disinvested of their traditional function? I want to appeal to the president that during this second term, he should make efforts to reform the police. I have been an advocate of police reformation. The kind of corporate culture in the police is not ideal for good performance. There is need to inject new ideas into the police, equip them, fund them, let them earn good salaries, and the functional. That reformation cannot be done by the average policeman today. It has to be done by somebody from outside the system. Bring somebody, maybe a retired military person from another arm of the military, or a criminologist as IG of the police, to reform the police. It's only then that we can begin to think of, okay, recruiting more, injecting new corporate culture into them, and then make them become effective. We are making the police to be ineffective by not addressing their needs.
Okay, Mr. George, just before you go, your comments on the on DHQ asking 193 Battalion to produce that alleged kidnapper.
They've got to, from the story I have been able to gather, that particular battalion, it is not a battalion policy. But there are some individual soldiers in that battalion that appear to be complicit in this evil act. Those people must be fished out, and it is the duty of the head of the battalion to fish them out. So the battalion has a case, or the leader of the battalion has a case to answer. How can you shoot policemen that are on duty, and the criminal they came to arrest was not affected?
Yes.
It looks suspicious. One would have thought that, okay.
And then he escaped in handcuffs.
And then he escaped in handcuffs. And the story I was reading this morning in a newspaper says that it was an army captain that came to release the handcuffs from the criminal's hands and legs. How could that have happened without the complicity of some soldiers in that matter? We need to get to the root of the matter, and those who are complicit, the military authorities must deal with them.
Okay. Well, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. George. That's you're bringing in this whole matter about impunity, which we talk about largely in the political sector. But impunity is in various places in our society, because that last point that Mr. George made, that whatever is determined has to be actioned.
Yes.
And oftentimes, that last part of it, people are phoned in to complain on various other aspects where you never hear anything more. When the dust blows over, when the noise dies down, we then go back to business as usual. And people are talking about a fundamental reform needed now of the police.
Yes.
How about the army itself?
No, you see, generally, we are beginning to make another serious mistake in our polity. Now, political power and political influence is being seen as a big thing in Nigeria. Once you hold a political office, it's like you are immune to almost everything. And then political consideration is being used in almost every decision-making and implementation of this decision. We need to, the fact that you are a senator, for instance, does not mean you are above the law. The fact that, and then we need to stop this, because one, we are saying that in other climes, the president will do this, we do that. Nigerians are among the best in various fields all over the world, among the best nuclear scientists, among the best doctors. We've heard of Professor Suleiman and all that. Now, in Nigeria, the president is surrounded by politicians. So that means if he's taking any decision, there is no way he can, he will do that without consulting. But you see, to some extent, Obasanjo was able to take certain decisions, even though he was a political leader. And then we need to address that, because that is being encouraged more by the poverty, by the poverty level. Yeah, you understand?
All of this is standard, isn't it?
No.
Because it's standard fare. There will be a president who doesn't need to be an expert in finance. He doesn't need to be an...
I'm saying is that he has a peculiar political, unnecessary
he's surrounded by advisors.
Good.
And I remember, Obasanjo said at one time that, advisors, I don't always have to take your advice. I remember that particular quote. So that's the kind of thing you're alluding to.
What I'm saying is
leadership.
Leadership, when the president is there, before he makes any appointment, he considers a lot of political interest. And the peculiar political interest in Nigeria is negative and corrupt.
Okay, one moment, please. I don't want to lose Danjuma, who has called in from Surulere. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for calling in. Good morning.
Thank you, sir. I just want to chip in something about the discussion of today. I don't want to.
I think you're going. Danjuma, could you help us mute the volume of your TV set?
I am not even with the TV.
Okay. There's some sort of an echo.
I become a training here a little bit, and I want to. The military.
The echo is worse. You must be in a very large room.
Sorry?
Are you in an empty room or a bathroom? The echo is very bad.
Okay, let me come. Let me enter the inner room.
Okay.
Can you hear me now, Yori?
If it's on speakerphone, try and use your actual. Don't use speakerphone if possible.
I'm not using speaker.
Please continue. Let's not waste any more. Continue,
okay,
please.
Is it better now?
Okay, yeah, carry on.
Okay. I don't want to outrightly blame the military authority.
Okay.
You see, in every setting, in every organization, you must see some bad elements. You see, the incident in Taraba is too sympathetic. You see, I was watching it as well. This is where we have found ourselves as a country. And we have, the barrister with you, Mr. Ahmed, has mentioned something. You see, if we want to correct some things, the president has the power to change some things that they are not looking at it because maybe I look at it as maybe because of political interest, they have refused to look at it. When there is an incident, you look at all the incidents that have been happening, police with army, army with police, police with civilians, police with youth. There was no time they came out and told us that this incident, you remember the incident that happened in Badagry?
In Badagry,
Yeah.
2015.
Yeah.
Nobody has been prosecuted. When somebody commits an offense, you should not support that offense because that person is from your authentic or your organization. When you come out with info, with an excuse in order to shield the offender, you know that tomorrow
Calling it esprit de corps or something like that. Esprit de corps.
tomorrow somebody will come in and do it again. That actually, if I do it, somebody will back me. So, army authorities supposed to come out clearly. I thank God that they have arrested the captain. I believe that the captain should know the voice that is that, and they should bring them. And who gave them that authority? It's not just to prosecute those soldiers. There must be somebody that send them. The soldier, I know army officer, I know army officer. They cannot just come and do something like that. It's against their rule of engagement. I know that, and I know that an average Nigerian army who is a trained army cannot do that like that. They must have given them authority that if you do this, nothing will happen.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Danjuma. Thank you for calling in, which also, it just leads to the very obvious point that in a different conversation, talking about corruption, people said, I think it was Ribado or something, who said that when you fight corruption, it'll fight back. Yeah. Here we are now, trying to get rid of this corruption scourge, and quite frankly, one can be surprised that there are tangible efforts to fight back. You'd have thought that nobody would dare to fight back against corruption. But look at what we're seeing. A person, an alleged kidnapper that has been apprehended by a crack team, you waste those lives, you waste those sterling lives because there's an objective, there's the force that no, we can't get to where we need to be in this country. That doesn't pay us. You go that way, then we're out of business. And they are strong enough to be causing all this kind of problem. I like what you said, that maybe we need to turn things around.
Yes.
Opportunities exist.
You see,
if only we want to be...
I sympathize with some of our leaders. A leader in Nigeria today presiding over any institution will require courage and dexterity to go outside his system sometimes to know what is really happening. Yes. I will give you one practical example. The IG has a lot of different units to assist him in, knowing what is going on. But sometimes, if any of the specialized units is presided over by somebody who is himself corrupt, the IG doesn't have time to look at all the things. He can simply call the head of that unit and say, what's happening? It is the information he gives that he relies on.
Yes.
Whether, do you know, there was one unit Somebody was investigated in 2008 for an offense, 2011 for an offense, 2013 for an offense. Even the DPP Sentry advised that the man was not involved in the offenses. These offenses were investigated by PANTI, Federal SARS, and CP Legal IG Office. In 2019, another petition was written against this same person, and the man was detained for more than close to about 2 weeks in Abuja. The IG called the head of that department, and they simply told him they are doing investigation and all the rest of them. It took the intervention of a very senior advocate for the IG to be aware of the facts of the case, and he ordered the release of that person. So when you are a president or you are presiding over an institution, you need reliable men of integrity who will not mislead you, because you are saddled with so much responsibility that you can't know the details of everything. So if the people surrounding you are not honest people, they will just use their office for personal aggrandizement and selfish interest. And at the end of the day, the public will be looking at that office.
Yes. Criticism goes to the
yes,
the
not knowing that you are being fed with misinformation.
Emmanuel, thank you for holding on. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yomi.
Thank you very much for calling in. Good morning.
Before I contribute, let me remind you of one thing. You talk about the policeman during the time of Babangida. I think it's Alozie.
Alozie.
Thank you.
That's the name.
Alozie,
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. That courageous police officer.
Then,
Thank you.
In what we are talking about now, I think the problem we have in this country is that we must get one thing right. There must be elite consensus. There must be elite consensus. The thing that is happening to our armed forces and the police is not in isolation in what is happening in the bigger society. Everything we do in this country is laced with politics. And there's no way we are going to get it right if we continue like that. Exactly. Even in the armed forces, the esprit de corps is no longer there. A lot of things are happening in our armed forces. The sabotage we are talking about is right from inside. There are a lot of moves. The Nigerian armed forces need reformation. It is not the Nigerian armed forces of old that we are seeing today. And the police itself, like we rightly said, the police during the time of Babangida and the military era, they were highly marginalized because even the Air Force, if it's not only the police, the Air Force,
yes.
There was a time there was no aircraft in Nigerian Air Force. So you find out that this thing is within our security architecture. There's a big problem. It needs serious reformation. We need to go back and look at where we got it wrong. Yes. This is a Nigerian army that went to Liberia and Sierra Leone, where we have terrible people and they dislodge them. This is Nigerian army that went to Sudan and dealt with the Janjaga. We give this so more terrible than the Boko Haram.
Yeah.
Then we must ask ourselves, what is going on? Why is the Nigerian armed forces that is regarded as one of the best disciplined forces in the world has come to this sorry pass today? It's because we don't interrogate a lot of things. Because in this country, when something happens, we wait until it degenerates to where we cannot even help it again. Because we believe in managing. Let us is better. Let us continue like this. It will be better. No, if you don't start something to nip it on the board, the thing becomes cancerous, and it affects every facet of the society.
Thank you very much for calling in, Emmanuel. I suppose another aspect to all of this is that we're sort of assuming and taking for granted that we want these questions fixed. Do we really want them fixed?
Yes.
Because it's after that we can now arrive at the other matter of, okay, whether we have the will to do that which is required.
Now, how do you fix it? It is the leaders. When we have the desire to fix and we talk about problem, suggest solutions, it is the leaders. We can handle our own family. We can influence our immediate community. But how do you get the government to work? Because you see, most of them that are in governance today, about 60, 70%, they don't want change. They don't want improvement. They want the situation to continue.
That's the point I was making.
Good.
That's the very point I was making.
They want the situation to continue.
How badly do we want this situation to change? Do we want a society where kidnapping is not even going to work?
There's this video that went viral on social media when the BBG, Bring Back Our Girls meeting. There was one lady, I couldn't get her name. She was addressing the audience. I wish I could ask you to research and play back. She said that during Jonathan's regime that Jonathan was spending 2 billion naira every day on security. There are people that do not want the insecurity to end.
I
get my point.
So it's not a small point.
See, the challenge we have in Nigeria today, there are two schools of thought. There are those who just know that these things, Nigeria is not working. Because we are not progressing as a people the way we ought to progress, given the manpower and the resources at our disposal.
Yes.
But there are some who are beneficiaries of the distorted system.
Exactly.
And so there is a contention between these forces who believe that, look, things should continue like this because they are making money out of it. It is feeding their interest is being taken care of and all that. If you rearrange the thing, there's a restructuring. We are going to lose out in the game. It's just like when a president is going for third term.
Yes.
Even if it's against the law, there are some that will say you are the best president. You are the best thing that I said. Go ahead, because
so I just wanted to rub this little bit in that you are airing.
They are scared of losing their
exactly.
So there are until these two forces come to a conclusion that look, there's something wrong with this structure called Nigeria. That's the honest truth.
Okay. So, let me quickly squeeze in as our last caller. It's Joshua in Irewolide. Good morning.
Yori, good morning, and I greet your guest.
Good morning,
Happy
and thank you for calling
to
in.
you.
Indeed.
Yes. I want to say that this is a serious situation. I wish that a deadline be given when the individual should be produced. That suspect should be produced. There should be a deadline.
You're right, but military matter is sharp. It's not like a political matter. I'm just guessing.
As fast as they can, they should produce that person. We know we're dealing with where military is now becoming an adventure of some business, some sort. So that part of using military as a form of business.
Oh dear. Sorry, Joshua. The line went bad on you, but we got your lead point. So here we are. Well, kudos to the army, but they didn't really have very much maneuver room because everybody has now seen this and everybody wants an explanation.
Yes.
And indeed, Defense Headquarters is saying, we agree with you. We want an explanation as well.
Yes.
We want to know what has happened. And okay, just in passing, Zagzaki is out of town. He's moved on, to medical treatment. SSS. Some people say don't say DSS. DSS, SS. We're talking about the same thing.
Yes.
They're escorting him to the place. No doubt, we'll have news later on, but at least that should lower tension a bit. At least theoretically speaking, right?
Yes.
Theoretically speaking, we'll wait and see how it goes. Thank you very much, Mr. Tony Dania, lawyer and social commentator, and thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed Dada Abass, lawyer and public affairs.
No chance
analyst.
for closing remarks.
Well, we completely run out of time, but if you could put it into 20 seconds.
Yes, you see,
you had any.
yes. What I'm going to say.
20 seconds.
Closing, 20 seconds. Our original policy formulators in this country are the cause of our problem. The people we praise are the cause of our problem. Because they went to London, they went to England, they saw how that place was run.
Defense headquarters doing this thing that we found that, we can talk about this. But thank you very much. Appreciate your call.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. So that's our program. Please join us tomorrow. We'll be back in the ties because our work will be beginning. And I'll see you then, God willing. Bye-bye for now.